Hey everybody, this is the DVC Data Nerd. What I do is I take data that I find from DVC and I try to find patterns and trends and try to make some order out of the chaos. I think a lot of people look at DVC resale prices and just kind of say it's the free market at work, it's supply and demand. Everyone has their preferences for certain resorts and they'll be willing to pay more for them. And they just kind of leave it at that and don't really give it much further thought. And they base their decision on kind of what resort they want and the price they're willing to pay. But what this channel does is we try to look into any patterns about DVC data and maybe help you make a more educated decision, whether you're buying, selling, or if you're just kind of staying there as an owner and wondering if you should hold on to the contract you already have. On DVC boards, there was a discussion about Riviera and whether it's a good value or not. For those who don't know, Riviera was the beginning of restricted resale contracts. What that means is that the old rules for DVC meant that you could buy any resort and then at 7 months you could use those points for other resorts if there was vacancy. And that's a big selling point and let you kind of explore everything, check out new resorts and everything. And that was great. Everyone enjoyed it until about 2019. At that point, Riviera opened and it became the first of the DVC resorts with resale restrictions. What that meant was if you bought Riviera direct from Disney, you could still use those points at any other resort at 7 months. But if you sold Riviera, the resale buyer would only be able to use those points at Riviera. And what that does is it scares a lot of people away because they are committed to Riviera and only Riviera for the remaining life of the contract as long as they have it. So that could potentially be 40-ish years of only one resort. So that really hurts the resale value. Some people feel that it should be hurt even more. I personally think it's a good value at $112 currently. These cost figures I'm using are the resale values from dvcfan.com. This is their March 2026 data, which is the most recent data that they published. So what I did was I took the cost of all the original 14 resorts, which are these right here, and I also added Riviera as a reference, basically. And I assigned a transportation score to each of the resorts based on how many parks you could easily access. So for instance, Animal Kingdom Lodge has a score of 0. There's no parks you can get to without a bus. That even Animal Kingdom, you have to take a bus, which is probably the biggest knock on Animal Kingdom Lodge. And its current value is $107 per point. Bay Lake Tower, I have that as one easy park to get to. That's a little bit debatable because it's a monorail resort. You can take the monorail to Magic Kingdom and you can take it to Epcot. And then likewise, you can also just simply walk from Bay Lake Tower to Magic Kingdom in like maybe 5 or 10 minutes. But the reason I don't give it a score of 2 is that if you're taking monorail from Bay Lake Tower to Epcot, you have to transfer to TTC, meaning you have to get off the monorail, walk down the ramp, around the TTC, back up the ramp, wait for the monorail, and then you can take the monorail to Epcot. If you have strollers, if you have slow walkers with you, that transfer can really take all the convenience out of it. At that point, I would say a bus, depending on your circumstances, might actually be more convenient. But I don't think I could give it a score of 2 based on that. Copper Creek, you can take a boat to Magic Kingdom, but that is it. Everything else is a bus. Grand Floridian is the same situation as Bay Lake Tower. You can easily get to Magic Kingdom, but if you're going to Epcot, you have to do that transfer, which kind of takes all the fun out of it. Old Key West notoriously is 100% bus to go anywhere. Polynesian, I gave it a score of 2, even though it's a monorail resort. The DVC longhouses are right next to the TTC, so you can just simply walk to the TTC and take the monorail either to Magic Kingdom or Epcot. And then also with Poly, you also have the boats you can take, or there's also the actual proper Poly monorail station that you can take. So I give that a score of 2. Saratoga Springs, you can walk to Disney Springs, you can take the boat to Disney Springs, but as far as parks go, you have to take a bus to go anywhere. So that's a score of 0. Beach Club and Boardwalk each have a score of 2. You can walk to Epcot, or you can take a friendship boat to Hollywood Studios, or if you really want, you can do that walk to Hollywood Studios too. Boulder Ridge is the same situation as Copper Creek. It's at Wilderness Lodge, so you can take the boat. It's Magic Kingdom. Everything else is a bus. Old Key West, this is just the 2042 version of the resort, not the extended version. Just kind of there as another data point. And then you have Riviera. So Riviera, the point I was trying to make on the message boards was that it has the Skyliner, so that lets you take a straight shot to Epcot, probably a 10-minute Skyliner ride. Or you can also take the Skyliner to Hollywood Studios, and that does technically involve a transfer, but it is a very easy walk. You can probably make that walk in about a minute. It's all level ground. There's usually not a wait. So I still have that as 2 easy parks you can get to from Riviera. And what I did was I made 2 trend lines. I grouped all the 2042 resorts together, and then I grouped all the later resorts together. And I made a trend line to kind of capture the pattern here. And what it shows is that for these 2042 resorts, what it shows is that the base value is $84. So, that's roughly kind of what Old Key West is. And then for every additional park that you can access easily, it comes at a $24 premium. So this right here would be Boulder Ridge, which is a little bit cheaper than the pattern would suggest. And then you have Boardwalk and Beach Club over here. For the later resorts, the inherent value, if you want to say, is $107 per point. And then each additional park you can get to easily comes at a $32 premium. Part of the reason it's higher is that you have Grand Floridian right here, which is kind of an outlier. People pay a premium for that because it is the Grand Floridian. I think a lot of people consider it the flagship of Disney resorts. Higher quality, great food and pools and everything. So people are willing to pay a premium, and it kind of jacks the trend line up a little bit. You can see for Poly, this data point right here would be Polynesian. It's actually a little bit below the trend line. Long story short, Grand Floridian kind of makes the pattern go out of whack. But the one thing I know, so anyway, it's $107 of inherent value, $32 premium for each. But then if you do, like I mentioned earlier, Bay Lake Tower, it's kind of debatable on if there's 2 easy parks to get to. And likewise with Grand Floridian. What happens if you change those scores to 2? The inherent value is still about the same at $106 instead of $107, no real difference. But the trend line, each additional park becomes $24 premium. So it matches almost exactly to the same trend as the 2042 resorts. So the long story short is that $24 is the premium that people end up paying for each park that's easily accessible. So how does Riviera figure in? I made a little data point here just for that. So it's 2 transportation options. It's selling at $112 per point. If it didn't have resale restrictions, that would have put it right up here with Grand Floridian and Poly. In the maybe say $160 range, maybe even $170. But the resale restrictions knock it all the way down to $112. So it's about a $50 hit that those resale restrictions introduce. So, some people really don't lose. Some people, but if you're willing to, commit to Riviera and only Riviera, it creates a really good value, I feel. It really ends up being the equivalent of Grand Floridian, say, for a $50 discount because of those resale restrictions. So that's kind of the key takeaways. I'd say is a $50 hit for resale restrictions and a $24 premium for each park that you can easily get to. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, and I'll be making more videos like this.